Our guest today has spent a career at the sharp end of some genuinely demanding business models, from the shop floor at Tata Steel to boardrooms and negotiating tables across the world. Those opportunities were with Infosys, and now P&L ownership as the finance head at Landmark Leisure. Mr. Jayant reads human resilience through ancient history and mythology. He takes leadership cues from Lord Ram, and he swears that quiet reflection on his own and not in the meeting room strategizing is actually where his best strategic ideas come from. So, Jayant, thank you so much. Welcome to the show. We've been looking forward to having you here. And first off, we would love to know a little more about your background and everything that has led you, to this particular role at Landmark Leisure.
Thanks, Chitra. Thanks for inviting me. And and it's an interesting platform to share something other than finance, because we mostly talk about finance in office now. Because my wife is also a chartered accountant, so in home also we keep talking about finance mostly, right? So I think it's a good opportunity. So about myself, so born and brought up in Jharkhand, and studied my graduation in Varanasi, one of the premium institute of Banaras Indian University, and there I find my soulmate in Varanasi, and I keep reflecting to Varanasi in this ancient city. So always sitting on the Ganges river, Ganga river, and reflecting gives a lot of insights. And then got an opportunity to start in Jamshedpur, because I'm brought up in Jamshedpur, born and brought up there, and fortunate to work in Tata Steel as an industrial trainee and then as an employee for 1 year. As you told, right, working there, a lot of empathy I learned from the corporate culture of Tata Steel. Even Tata is known for that. How do you to connect with the workers there? And then I got a call from Infosys, and then living in a tier 2 city, you always aspire to go in a big city and see how the world is. And Infosys was a great name. So I joined Infosys, and it was a small, you say fortunate or unfortunate. I was interviewed for a tax role because I was handling indirect tax in Tata Steel. And when I landed up, they said the role is filled because they needed somebody in advance. And the business finance was a dumping ground, because a lot of churn happened there. And they say we are now placing you in a business finance role. Initially, I was not that happy because I heard a lot of things about business finance, that long working hour, XYZ. But I said okay, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And I always believe that जो भी होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है. And then I started my journey in business finance, and I can tell you it was a phenomenal journey. And even I spent 10 years there in Infosys. The work was not the reason I left. It was something else, because I wanted to explore some other industry and all. But a lot of learning in Infosys happened, across the board. Every pricing proposal was new. A lot of people, extraordinary leadership. Got an opportunity to see the world outside India. And then I decided that okay, it's long 10 year in an IT company. Let's explore something else. Then I got an opportunity with Landmark. It's a big 50-year-old company in retail, and of course in Infosys, because an IT company, revenue is the big focus, and here the entire P&L is the focus. And I got consulted from my leadership, my mentors there, and then I landed up in Landmark, and now it's close to 4 years here. It's 3.5 years close to, and it's being phenomenal, extraordinary boss here. More like a friend to me. And it's the leadership, the culture of the company, the freedom which I'm getting here is very much so. And that's how I landed up here, and I believe that it was the right decision after 10 years to move on. And working there, bringing a lot of changes in the companies, policies, and the way the working happens. So this is about me. And on a personal front, as I told you, I'm married to my wife Chama, and I have 7-year-old son Ved.
Wonderful.
And, living here in Bangalore.
Wonderful. And so interesting that you mentioned that back then business finance was the dumping ground because there was a lot of churn. Today, not much is different. There is still a lot of churn there, but it is the most lucrative area that all chartered accountants want to work in. they don't, even if they don't completely understand controllership and accounting, they still want to, do strategy and business finance. And of course, veterans like you have gone through the hard path of actually going through, either the tax part of it or accounting and controllership, and then understanding the business, and, eventually you're heading finance now. So there's a lot more business partnering that I'm sure, you're doing now. One other thing that you said is mythology gives you a timeless perspective on human behavior. Is there any particular story or, mythological figure that you find yourself either relating to or, going back to whenever, things get not necessarily hard, but, whenever you feel like, okay, you need some inspiration? Is there any particular story or figure?
Yeah, so there are so many stories, we can maybe have a separate podcast also for that. But as I mentioned, and you mentioned, Lord Ram definitely inspires me a lot. And I will give you a small example. Maybe we can't talk long about it. So the one of the characteristic of, Sri Ram is that he's indifferent in happiness and sorrow. So when he was, supposed to be the crown prince of Ayodhya, before he went to the exile, at that time he was not happy. He was not celebrating. He was as is. It's like normal course. And when his father commanded him to that you need to be in exile for 14 years, and the crown will now go to your brother. And that time also he was indifferent. So he was above the sorrow and happiness. So this is because happiness and sorrow is within ourselves. In a situation, I can be happy and you may be sad. In a situation, the same situation, you can be happy and I can be sad. So I think the sadness and happiness, the joy, the sorrow, and maybe sometime you got promoted and you become happy, or you were not promoted, you become sad. It's all a state of mind. So this is a learning. I keep trying to push myself. I'm still not there. I also become sad and sorrow. But one of the things which I keep reflecting is that the situation should not command us. We should be commanding our ourselves. That we should be the person who should make ourselves happy or sad, not the event in the society or nearby you. So this is one story, and there are so many actually, but this is one I keep reflecting.
Yeah, no, I think this is also very relevant for our fast-paced corporate life, where essentially what you're saying is be zen. Whether things are tough, whether things are going well, don't get too swept up in either emotion and try and stay, zen. And you've also mentioned that your leadership style centers a little bit on creating that psychological safety. And I think while you were giving your introduction, also you mentioned, your seniors or peers at Landmark. It's like working with friends. So, how do you build that autonomy and that trust and that psychological safety, with your team, and how do you actually let go and, not micromanage?
See, it is. It's not easy actually to not micromanage, because when you work in a team, there can be somebody who is very self-driven. Somebody need constant push. So there will be different type of situations where I always try, because then this is how I build myself, and I am fortunate to have those type of mentors with me, or as a seniors or super bosses, where the psychological safety was there. We can step up and say something, whether if I believe it is not right, we say no, I think this may be the better way to do it. Or the freedom is there. You do whatever you have to do and come to me when you are stuck. So that type of things keep us motivated, keep learning, we keep driving ourselves, not just following the orders. So same thing I try to do with the team, in Infosys also and here also, where I believe in that this work is yours, you need to get it done. And this is the result at high level which we are expecting. At the same time, I also give a perspective that how this work is important to the organization, how it will impact the results of the organization. So that way the ownership goes to the individual, and he feel that this is something important to be closed in particular timeline also.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, and you answered it so well. How do you make sure that a junior analyst who feels so far removed from, if, for example, they just work on a reconciliation file, they have no idea what impact or domino effect this could have on the overall strategy. So I was just going to ask you that how would you ensure that this person also sees the big picture and the value that their work is adding to the overall scheme of things?
It's especially, because we have chartered accountants in the team, we have MBAs, we have simple graduates also. So when you are dealing with so variety of people, everybody cannot be on the same page.
Yeah.
But this is what the job I believe as a mentor or as a leader I have to ensure that they understand what they're doing. Even though, like for example, I have a member in my team who is working with a developer, the mall developer. We have stores in our retail organization.
Mm-hmm.
So though he is just processing the invoices, he is not doing much thing. But I have told him that you are the owner of, because my total exposure to developer is 40% of my sales, which is a big number. Rent, CAM, electricity. So I told was you are owner of it, right? It's like you are end-to-end owner of that. So now you need to deal with even the reconciliation. You need to get it, and I need a no due certificate from that every 6 months. So that way, what happens? And I told him that what will happen if you don't have a no due. Because the things can keep accumulating, and then tomorrow at a time of exit of the store, we may get a big surprise. And we have seen in past, that we have got a big surprise, which was accumulated from last 10 years, maybe in Landmark. So now he understands that, how this reconciliation will help him. He follow ups with the developers, he get it done, and it is one of these KPIs now. So that way he learns that, okay, how, and now he owns it, that, okay, I am owing 40% of the P&L. I'm not doing the invoice processing or just, checking the invoice, it is correct or not, as per contract or not, but I'm owning 40% of the P&L, which is a big number, 40% of sales. So this is how he gets the perspective, and then he feels that I am important in the organization.
Yeah, no, I think very important to make people also feel that they're accountable, and they by default then take ownership. So I think very, very relevant example also that you gave us. I would like to talk about one point that you mentioned, which especially when you said you were an industrial trainee in Tata Steel. Of course, it was a short stint, but you mentioned that it gave you empathy for the frontline staff. People who work in the factory, the stores, and are responsible for the baseline execution. Was there a particular story there, or what did you see there that has stayed with you, all these years later, and you're even mentioning it as a talking point? So something I'm sure must have stayed with you. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, definitely. See, because Tata Steel is a steel industry, and it's a furnace where the iron ore is getting melted into steel, and then the steel is casted. Though Tata Steel, and I think the steel plant is more than 100 years old there. It was pre-independence when Jamshedji Tata established it, and so it is a pre-independence, and it has a history of accidents also. So during my stint in Tata Steel, as a 2-year one as an employee and all, I have seen people losing their life also in accidents. But how the group used to take it up. I'll just give you an example. There used to be so this is what they have the policy, and also and how they feel the worker is important. I can tell you, there's a blood donation camp they used to run. So, and I'm a regular blood donor, so I have given it in Infosys also. Every places they had. So if you are in Tata Steel, you are giving the blood donation. First of all, you have all the facility you will have, proper breakfast and all. Then if the managing director, MD, is in Jamshedpur, usually he sits in Mumbai, he will personally come and thank you and give you a gift, 1 or 2 guys, and one leave will be credited to your account, because you have given a blood donation, one leave will be credited to your account. So if you see the policy they have, for the people directly connecting to the workforce on the ground, which I have not seen much, and that same was in Infosys also, but because Tata Steel is something, and currently Landmark, where the ground people are actually running it. So the empathy they have, the work should happen, the health checkups, the medical in Tata Steel is unlimited. There is no insurance. So if you are feeling ill, there is a hospital, and they refer to the big hospital also, and the entire cost will be borne. It's not a cap of 5 lakh, 10 lakh. It can be 1 crore also. It will be borne by the company. In your family also, your father or dependent. So I can see the empathy that the group had. Similarly, Landmark Group, because the people who are standing in the retail store, Especially my concept, it's a leisure concept where the constant noise comes from the machine. Even I go to the store and standing 2 hours near to the machine is not easy, and they're standing 8-9 hours. Standing, running the machines, standing the noisy environment, flashy lights, and they are the person who is actually generating revenue for us. We are sitting in a cool chamber room here, but they are the people who are actually generating. Standing 10 hours is not easy. 8-9 hours, not easy. So that's how I believe that they are the person who is actually running the show for us, and so we need to have a special corner for them.
Wonderful. I think how humble you are still comes out in the way that you speak with so much empathy and gratitude for the frontline staff that are making things possible. So then that was Tata Steel. I would love to know about Infosys, because I believe you spent 3 years in Australia there. So that also must have been quite a turning point, because you're working in global markets, and again with Infosys you have your enterprise clients. So did that add or change the way you think or look at business?
See, I think Australia, of course, was it was a good add-on to the overall experience, career, and all. But it was more from my wife push, which we went out, and because otherwise, I am more, as you know, that I am more of a person who love my own country to be in. But it was her own decision. But of course, once I went there, and then I believe it was the right decision to explore at a right time of your career, right age where you explore something. Uh, what I see there, and of course in most of Europe, because Australia is more of a Europe, if you ask me, it's not much of a difference. US is different industry, but Australia you can correlate more from Europe side. Two things more important there. Of course, the value of people is there. Whether you are, in whichever role, people value people is more, and I think the people, even the clients, whenever we were engaging in the client discussion. There were a lot of deals which we were working on. So one is value people, that even they are outsourcing the work to us, what will happen to their existing employees? How you're going to deal with them? That was one of the important things which they were always in their mind. That okay, I will be able, if I give it the work to Infosys, there will be 50 people will be displaced. Sometimes the number was more than 500 which will be displaced. And all the 500 people, they can't deploy in their own thing, right? So they asked us to take them people and on our role. Then even after that, how you're going to deal with them? You can't just fire them or ask them to move from Melbourne to Sydney in 1 year time. So there were terms and conditions. So that shows that how the companies take care of their employees. That was one. And second lesson which I believe in Australia we learn about the fitness. Though I'm not there still, but fitness is a big thing. Everybody, whenever they get time, I think focus on their fitness. And which I'm realizing now, because I'm just touching 40 now, and now I'm realizing that fitness is very important if I need to continue for next 20-25 years. And and being a chartered accountant, there's no end to the end life. You can continue till the time you are sensible physically and mentally. So now I'm realizing that was how important the fitness is. So I think the employee side of the corporate and the fitness thing, which makes Australia and New Zealand more different than I believe the US side.
Sense what you said, fitness is important, and as you rightly pointed out, a chartered accountant doesn't have to have a retirement age, as long as their mental faculties are working okay. So that was nice. But I think a couple of times you mentioned that you had to relay information in a different way. So I feel like composure under pressure is something that you have dealt with multiple times. But early on in your career, was there ever a moment where you did not have that composure, or you got angry about something and you were quick to lose your temper? And now looking back, what did that teach you? Or if there was no event like that, how did you manage to keep it in check?
Okay, so I think I will say that I'm blessed to that I don't lose temper. I don't get angry. I think it's a blessing only, because it's not easy to keep your temper cool. But I think this also I've learned from some from my father, okay, and from my mentors, initial mentors at Infosys, and she was a lady, and I think the professionalism she had, taught me, that how to deal with the people, or the people side of the people, co-workers you're working on. But of course, there were situations where the pressure was very high, because especially you work with sales guys. In Infosys, the sales guys who are sitting at on-site, most of them are like, IIT, IIMs, top notch, and they know that how to get the work done, and then working with them on the tight timelines, because it's a tender submission. So I was in the pricing team initially. So the pricing submission need to be go on 20th. The 20th is the cutoff. It need to go on 20th with all the relevant approvals and all. The things keep churning constantly. Changes happens to fit the price, fit the staffing and all. So pressure is there. A lot of time working till 2 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock at night. But I think instead of what we used to do, we all friends used to take it as a more of a fun and challenge. That okay, theek was you're working today, somebody is working tomorrow. And especially when you're not married, they can just sit to accompany you. They don't have work, but they will sit with you just to make sure that you are there. So those bondings are there. When you work, work together, they can help you sometime, even it's not their work. So working as a team will definitely help you to reduce the pressure. But when you sit across the table with a client, which I got exposure in Australia, and also over the call many times, when you're negotiating contracts, there was a situation where the client walked out of the door that okay, this deal is done, we don't want to do because the terms are, we don't agree with the terms, right? So there are difficult situations, but what I believe is important is the calmness. To just not react to it, just listen to it, then huddle up, understand what is there, because it's sometimes the pressure building is a strategy. We know that pressure building is a strategy. So that is the time you should not react. You need to compose, reiterate your position, and again, put it forward. And of course, whenever you are in a contract negotiation part, any type of negotiation, so we need to look for a win-win situation. It cannot be my side or their side. Then otherwise the things will not work. So, we need to come to a conclusion. Sometimes you give something or sometimes you give something. The situation is happening in Iran, we are saying, right? The war which is going on in US and Iran. So if each people hold their foot on the things, they will not come together, right? So they need to lose something, this guy need to lose something, and that's how it comes together. So this is what the learning happened. Now currently at Landmark Group is where I'm getting more board exposure. So the situation in boardroom is very difficult to handle, and because the chairwoman or chairman is the person who is, in Landmark Group, it's not a listed entity, so the chairwoman owns the entire business. So you need to have a balance, understanding. Sometimes there can be a beating, sometimes there can be a good thing. But this is how, I take it forward that, okay, whatever criticism happens, we need to take it positively and see that how can we improve out of that. Just keep the person side aside, and comes outside the room, you don't take that beating, carry with you. Whatever happened, it happened. Take the learnings from it, and then, try to not carry on with that. Otherwise, it will hamper you.
Right. But embracing, like you said, this constructive criticism or, and taking it in a positive note, that is also something that comes with time. It's easy to get bogged down and feel upset, but taking it positively is also a learned skill. Is that any particular mentor or someone that you looked up to who did that and now you're emulating it? Maybe because you did speak about your mentors in the past also, and I think one more thing you mentioned is they said never settle and always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. The last part is tough to do and intimidates a lot of people, because everyone, I think by default, especially if they're CAs or finance folks, they want to be seen as a smart person themselves. So why does that energize you instead of intimidating you like it does for so many others?
Yeah, see, I learned from my super boss, and he was the only non-chartered accountant super boss or boss. He was an MBA guy, and I learned a lot from him. So he used to always, he was a never settling guy. So initially we were finding a tough time with him. But then slowly we realized that was the learning curve is very steep, when you are working with such situation. And it was mostly in the COVID time, when he was my super boss, COVID and after COVID also. So a lot of learning from him. And one of the things he only told that, try to hire people smarter than you. And I have done that, and I believe it is the best thing to do. So I try to hire, of course you have limitation of budgets and all, you can't hire the best of the talents, but I always try to hire people smarter than me, because I believe it will help me in two ways. Because see, whatever work they do, it actually comes to me, because it's like what they have done is what I have done. Secondly, it keeps me always, it always keep me that, okay, this guy is thinking so sharp, or, this different perspective. So it always keep me on my toes that, that, okay, I need to be also on the par. So this is where I think we keep ourselves more updated, more relevant, because if I keep people who are not smarter, they're just doing what I am telling them, then my growth will hamper. Like, I will not be more relevant in the fast pace, change that's happening. So the guy I'm hiring, who is just fresher, he will of course have seen more fast moving technologies. He can do things much faster than me. And this is how I learn with him. And actually it has helped me only in my growing my career. So I always believe, that better to hire people who are more smarter than you, and also be surrounded of the people more smarter than you. If possible, I want to do that, because you get more perspective. You listen, and listening is very important. There are many things which I keep listening, and later on I realize that this is how I can use this thing.
You're mentioning this. Yeah, no, you're mentioning this very casually, Jayant, but I have to tell you this. It reflects a lot of wisdom, because we have met so many finance leaders. A lot of them, I don't think even maybe 50% would admit how openly you're admitting it, and probably that's a mark of the wisdom and experience that you do have, where you're candidly saying, you want to surround yourself with people who are smarter or whatever perceived to be,
they are more knowledgeable, smarter anytime with me. Because what I believe, if in a meeting room, if you are the person who is the most knowledgeable person, in that meeting you will not learn anything. If you are surrounded by people who are more smarter or more knowledgeable in any sense, then I will get, when I am walking out of meeting, I will at least have something as a food of thought. If I am the only guy who is speaking in the meeting, then I didn't learn anything in that meeting. I just thrown out of the things whatever I have. So I always try to see, if I have somebody who, it may be anything. It may not be only related to work. It may be related to even, which is my favorite topic about, about my history, culture. If I get somebody who knows it, so I try to be quiet and try to listen. Yeah. So that, maybe 50% I already know, or 70% I know, but the 30% I can get from him or her. I can get this 30%.
Wonderful. And I think if you, this would be a good closing question, but if you could hand your younger self, the industrial trainee at Tata Steel, who is just starting off, maybe it's his first week, if you could tell that Jayant any one thing that you know now, after all these years of experience, what would that one thing or one word of advice be?
Okay. So I think what I will tell him that, I think I will tell two things rather. One is read more and be in a surrounding of more people who listen more, read more and listen more. And at the same time, the second suggestion would be that try to learn the business first, then do the work. So initially, which I was doing it, and many young people do, I try to just focus on their work. I am supposed to do this, I will do this. But whenever somebody joins my team, I send them to the store first. Go and see the store, 1 day, 2 days, be there. Then come and we talk about what you need to do. First of all, you need to understand the business completely. What is there, how the revenue is coming, where the cost is going, who is building revenue for us, what are the challenges, what are the KPIs. Then come and do the work. First, even some industrial trainee joins me, I say go to the store, full 1 day, visit, and then come. Next day we'll talk.
Wonderful. I wish when we had joined, so when I was doing articleship, as you know, I wish that our seniors had told us this when we would go to the client place for the first time. They just go understand the business. Instead, we would just get files to work papers to immediately work on and submit. So I wish someone had done that, and honestly, this would be wonderful for anyone who's joining your team. I think this hands-on experience in terms of understanding the business, it's so crucial. It's such a small thing. You're spending probably 2 days doing it, but I'm sure it adds a lot of perspective to the work that they'll eventually be doing. So.
Yes.
Amazing. I think we've had such a wonderful conversation, Jayant. Thank you so much for taking time out on a weekday, that the first half, to speak to us. We learned a lot from you. I think our listeners also will have a lot to take inspiration from. And thank you so much. We had a wonderful time. I hope you had a good time.
Yes, Chitra, thanks a lot, and thanks for the opportunity. It was nice talking to you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jayant. Thank you.
Thanks.